Some stories are so terrifying, so real that they're locked away, forbidden from ever reaching your screen. Tonight, I'm breaking that silence. 5 true horror stories, banned from TV for being too disturbing, too raw, too wrong. Stick with me until the end, if you dare. You won't believe what they didn't want you to see. In 1974, a small psychiatric hospital in Red Lake, Minnesota, became the site of an experiment no one was supposed to know about. A group of researchers, funded by a shadowy government grant, set out to study fear itself. They called it the Red Lake Experiment. Patients, some volunteers, others dragged from asylums under false pretenses, were subjected to tests that pushed the boundaries of human sanity. Sensory deprivation tanks filled with a thick, oily liquid that clung to the skin like tar. Audio loops of distorted screams played for days, relentless, until the patients begged for silence. Electrodes wired to their skulls didn't just monitor brainwaves, they seemed to rewrite them, planting thoughts that weren't their own. The goal was simple but sinister: to see how far the mind could bend before it shattered. The tapes from those experiments were ordered destroyed, burned to ash to erase what happened in those cold, sterile rooms. But one reel survived, smuggled out by a nurse who disappeared days later. That footage is something you can't unsee. Patients clawing at their faces, their nails drawing blood as they whispered about shadows that spoke. One clip, just 12 seconds long, shows a figure in the background, tall, blurred, not human. It wasn't there when the room was checked. The FCC labeled the tape a psychological hazard and locked it in a vault somewhere in Washington, D.C. Those who've seen it say the screams don't stop when the tape ends. They follow you into your dreams. Imagine being strapped to a chair, hearing voices that aren't there, seeing things that can't exist. What would break first, your mind or your soul? Fear is not just an emotion. It's a doorway, said Dr. Alan Voss, the lead researcher, in a leaked memo from 1974. The screen glitches, and a distorted voice whispers, "They're still watching." In 1987, a low-budget horror anthology show called Midnight Shadows aired its final episode, titled The Family Next Door. It was supposed to be a simple ghost story. A family moves into a new home, haunted by its previous owners. But from the opening scene, something felt wrong. The actors' performances were too raw. Their screams didn't sound scripted. Their eyes kept darting to the corners of the set, as if they saw something the cameras missed. Halfway through the episode, the screen went black for 17 seconds. When the picture returned, the actors were gone. In their place was grainy footage of a real family bound, gagged, trembling in a basement no one recognized. The mother's eyes were wide with terror, and a shadow moved across the wall behind her. Too tall, too wrong. The network yanked the episode mid-broadcast after thousands of viewers flooded their phone lines. REPORTING, panic attacks, nausea, and visions of a man with no face standing in their homes. The FBI investigated, but the footage's origin was a dead end, no records, no trace. The episode was banned, all copies ordered destroyed. Yet, bootleg VHS tapes still circulate among collectors, passed around in hushed whispers. Those who watch it say they hear knocking at their doors hours after the tape ends, soft at first, then louder, insistent. Have you ever watched something that made you feel ... watched? What if the horror wasn't on the screen, but standing right behind you? We didn't film that scene. I swear, we didn't. An anonymous crew member wrote in a letter found years later. The sound of a door, slamming echoes, and faint knocking begins. On Halloween night, 1999, residents of a small Ohio town tuned into Channel 47, a local access station known for grainy reruns and endless static. But at 2:13 a.m., the static cleared and a broadcast began. A man in a featureless white mask sat in front of a black curtain, his voice calm, almost mechanical, as he read names. Hundreds of them. Names of people in the town. Names of people long dead. Names of people watching the broadcast, their hearts stopping as they heard their own identities spoken aloud. Viewers tried to change the channel, but their TVs wouldn't respond. Phones rang with no one on the other end. Some swore they saw the masked man standing outside their windows, motionless, staring. The broadcast lasted 43 minutes before the signal cut out. The station claimed it was a prank, but their equipment logs showed no activity that night. No one was in the studio. No signal was sent. The FCC banned any mention of the event, citing mass hysteria. No one knows who sent the signal or how they accessed the station. But every Halloween, a few brave or foolish souls in Ohio tune into Channel 47, waiting to see if the masked man will return. What if someone out there knows your name, and they're waiting for you to tune in? It wasn't human. It knew too much. One viewer wrote in a police report, their handwriting shaky. The static crackles, and a distorted voice whispers, "Your name is next." In 2003, a documentary crew ventured into the dense forests of Oregon to film the Blackwood Cult, a secretive group that worshipped an entity they called the Hollow One. They believed it spoke through the trees, guiding them to salvation. The crew spent 3 weeks with the cult, capturing rituals that grew darker with each passing day. Animal sacrifices, their blood soaking into the earth. Chants in a language no linguist could identify. Members slicing their own skin, offering their blood to the roots of ancient pines. On the final night, the crew filmed the ceremony in a fog-choked clearing. The footage showed a figure tall, impossibly thin, with no face stepping out of the mist. The camera cut out, and the crew's screams filled the silence. When they returned to civilization, the crew was ... changed, silent, their eyes hollow, like they'd seen something that stole a piece of their soul. The documentary was never released. The network called it too unsettling for public consumption. The tapes were seized by authorities, but whispers say copies exist on the dark web. Those who've watched them report sleepless nights, a constant feeling of being followed through the woods, even if they live in a city. Some doors, once opened, can't be closed. Would you risk watching that tape? The Hollow One sees you now, read graffiti found near the cult's abandoned camp in 2004. The sound of rustling leaves fades to silence, and the air feels heavier. Everyone knows the story of Flight 19, the 5 Navy bombers that vanished in the Bermuda Triangle in 1945. But what no one talks about is the footage recovered decades later. In 1991, a deep-sea salvage team found a camera in the wreckage, its film somehow preserved despite years underwater. The footage showed the pilot's final moments' compasses spinning wildly, radios crackling with voices that didn't belong to the crew, speaking in a language no one could place. A shadow passed over the cockpit, too large to be a cloud, too solid to be a trick of the light. In the final frame, a pilot stares directly into the camera, his face pale, his voice barely a whisper. It's not the storm. The Navy classified the footage, banning it from ever being shown. Leaked snippets have surfaced online, but those who watch them say the voices on the radio linger, echoing in their nightmares. The Bermuda Triangle has always been a mystery, but this tape suggests something far worse than a storm took those men. What's out there, in the places we can't see? And what if it's looking back? The sea doesn't just swallow ships, it keeps them. An anonymous salvage diver said in 1991, his voice trembling in an interview. The sound of crashing waves fades to static, heavy, and oppressive. These 5 stories were buried for a reason. They're not just scary, they're too real, too raw, too close to something we're not supposed to understand. Which one chilled you the most? Drop it in the comments below, and if you've heard of other band stories, I want to know. Hit that like button if you felt the fear, subscribe if you're brave enough for more, and share this with someone who needs a good scare. But be warned, some truths don't stay buried. What's the scariest thing you've ever seen on a screen? Tell me, if you dare.